like you're going to see the power of that one good choice, because your state is going to be changed, your vibe is going to be raised, and from there you can make the next best choice and the next right choice. So it's never about being perfect or black and white and seeing that one choice that you make now is going to have to be always the same choice. Not at all. There are so many different foods available to us all the time, and we can use them to shift our state however we need to.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. What's up, badass manifestors? I'm super excited because today I have a special guest, and I mean, you guys actually have met this amazing soul before. She's been on the podcast before. Her name is Marie Young, and she is coming in hot with some amazing tips and tools to like really treat your health like you would treat, like imagine that you were taking care of somebody else, right? Like we always take care of other people before we take care of ourselves. And this is all about like treating yourself the way that you treat others in regards to like your overall wellness. So Marie she has a very holistic view of nutrition, and she's an amazing nutrition coach. And she is all about that high vibe nutrition life, like and conscious momming as well, and intentional living outside of the box. And she's all about using food as the starting point to help mamas bloom in the most alive, aligned, and abundant version of themselves. And so she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us, and more knowledge than last time. And if you haven't listened to her podcast episode, I would go back and listen to that after this one to just give you more context for what she's all about and how you can incorporate some of her tips and tools and teachings into your life. So welcome back. Love you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. Ashley was my OG coach that changed my life about 4 years ago, and will always have a special spot in my heart. And yes, I've been on the podcast actually a couple of times. The first time talking about plant-based nutrition, and the second time about food freedom. And we're constantly shifting and evolving, right? But there is always going to be a common thread, which is that I see food as a starting point or portal, that if you make changes in that area, it will have a ripple effect on every other area of your life. And I also have a special spot in my heart for mamas and mamas to be, because, well, I am one, and that is one of those major sort of life changes. And actually, even before becoming a mama, I went through like 5 years of infertility issues before conceiving my first kiddo. And so all that stuff like has taught me so much. And nutrition is one of these major foundational blocks of having a healthy, wealthy, aligned life all around, because especially in the hard times, like in the life-changing times, in the hard seasons of life, that's when we don't take care of ourselves, right? That's when that piece, that foundational piece, actually tends to go out the window. So anyway, I'm just happy to be here.
So good. I love that so much. There's so much to dive into. So can you share a little bit about like what like concepts that we were talking about beforehand, like some of these topics that we're going to dive into, like where does one start when it comes to like changing the way that they interact with food?
Yeah, so I think that not everybody's like me, but I think a lot of people who will listen to your podcast are like me. And we are sort of very type A, very driven, very perfectionistic, and very black and white thinkers, right? And so we tend to, when we want to make a change, we want to overhaul everything overnight. And we want to set some really, really high standards for our nutrition. And very often, when we can't live up to those standards because stuff is happening in our life, then we just throw it all out the window and wait for another opportunity that might come up in the future for us to try again. But what if it didn't have to be that way, right? What if we could make a change now today? That might not be the most massive change, but work on that one change and sort of keep working on just that one change until it becomes sustainable and automatic. And then we can incorporate more. And you will see that ripple effect within your nutrition, meaning that once you start feeling better because of one little change, you crave more of that. And so you want to keep doing that. And then you'll see the ripple effect on other areas of your life as well. But I would say it's just like I talked about in that first time I was on the podcast, talking about transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle where we could take that approach of first nailing breakfast and nothing else. And then once that becomes automatic, then we add on, lunch and snacks and dinner in a very sort of gradual, progressive approach. And I still see it that way when it comes to getting healthier or unprocessing your diet or eating more natural foods or whichever diet that you think or way of eating that you think is going to be the best fit for you. Just take one step in that direction today. And if there is one thing that I say all the time, it's you cannot underestimate the power of, don't underestimate the power of making good choices for even just one day. Like if you wake up in the morning and you've been, feeling like garbage because of what you eat for like years, and you wake up in the morning tomorrow and for one day you make great choices, you're going to feel so different the next day, like so different. You're going to gain momentum that way. So yeah.
I love that. And would you say that, like, what is high vibe nutrition? Like, is that what you're talking about as like making better decisions so that your energy is like in a different level? Or is it more about like the actual choices that you're making, or is it both?
Yeah, all of the above. That's always the answer, all of the above. Um, so you can use nutrition as a tool to change your vibe and change your state. But I want to say this, like, again, when I say high vibe nutrition, you might think that this is some elite thing that is not accessible to you right now. Or you might think that it means having, green juice and salad and nothing else ever. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, first of all, what makes you feel high vibe might not be what makes me feel high vibe, right? We're all different. For example, I don't do all that great with like juices and smoothies and stuff. I tend to need like warm, comforting foods a lot more. And that's okay. We're all different, right? But you could also use that to change your state. So say you're in need of comfort, you're feeling like sort of really scattered and overwhelmed and flighty, then maybe what you need to do is make find a very healthy, nourishing stew or soup or something like that. And say you're feeling really heavy and bogged down and low energy, that's when you might need to reach for the salad or the juice or the smoothie. But seeing that those different meals as tools that you can incorporate in your life as ways to change your state when you need it. And then that's when that other piece comes in, which we were talking about before. Like once you make that one choice and you've successfully shifted your state from feeling like heavy and lethargic, and you had, instead of just running around and grabbing something junky because, you're craving more of that sort of heavy, lethargic, because that's what you were doing before, and you want to change your state, and you successfully make the choice of making a smoothie or grabbing the juice or something like that. Then you cannot, again, like you're going to see the power of that one good choice, because your state is going to be changed, your vibe is going to be raised, and from there you can make the next best choice and the next right choice. So it's never about being perfect or black and white and seeing that one choice that you make now is going to have to be always the same choice. Not at all. There are so many different foods available to us all the time, and we can use them to shift our state however we need to.
That's so powerful. I think about that all the time of like, for a few days, I've been in New York, so for a few days I was eating like kind of low vibe food. And as soon as I had a salad, I was just like, because it just felt like the right choice in the moment and it felt lighter to me.
Mhm.
I was just like so happy. And I was immediately just like, ah, salad, yes. Like this feels good to eat, you know? And
Yeah.
it really does impact your state immediately.
Yeah. And sometimes, what you need is to really connect around a really great like pan of brownies, right? And you're
Totally.
make like some super healthy, real food based, but really, really delicious brownies. And you're going to have your girlfriends over and maybe have a small glass of wine with it or whatever it is. And that's going to be exactly what you need to get to that next level in the moment, which is raising your vibe to the vibration of community and connection. So it depends what you want to achieve in terms of your vibration, and you can find the nutrition tools, the foods to support that, which I think is so cool.
Mm, that is so, so cool. I love that. And I know we talked a little bit about like this concept of treating your nutrition, treating your lifestyle as if you were like prepping for postpartum.
Right. I love working with moms to be. I've been fascinated with pregnancy. I'm training to be a doula as well.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, for so many years, like I was a teenager reading pregnancy books, which was really weird. Like I kind of had to hide myself like in the library because like I didn't want people to get any ideas. But I was
Yeah, yeah.
fascinated with the process. And still now I find it so fascinating. And I want to help moms use that time of pregnancy and preparing for postpartum to actually acquire the skill set to do that in other times and seasons of their life. So for example, maybe you don't have kids, you're not interested in having kids, whatever, but you're a coach and you're about to do a big launch and you're like, oh my gosh, I am preparing for this mastermind launch, and I'm going to be all in, full ass, like I like to say, full ass from January to March or whatever that launch period is. You want to prepare for that the way that that pregnant mom is going to prepare for postpartum. So what is she going to be thinking about? She's going to be thinking about, okay, what am I going to need to nourish myself so that I can nourish my baby best, right? And it's going to be the same for you as a coach. You're going to be thinking about what do I need to put in place to nourish myself so that I can nourish my clients and my potential clients best, or my team, or whoever you serve. You're going to be thinking about it that way. Like, how can I feed myself best so that I can pour into others after? You're going to be thinking about practical sort of systems that you can put in place. Same thing. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. I'm about to have this baby and my hands are going to be full all the time. Like, what am I going to do, to actually find time to make that food? Well, maybe that's when you're like, okay, I'm going to stock my freezer first, right? I'm going to get all these recipes that I know make me feel high vibe, that make me feel nourished, that make me feel comfort. And I'm going to stock my freezer with them. Well, maybe you're going to do the same thing when you're preparing for that launch. You're like, okay, what can I have on hand? Where, or even if you're not the kind who spends a lot of time in your kitchen, you're going to stock your freezer yourself. Where can I source out those high vibe meals that are going to sustain me for that launch, right? And how can I have them at my fingertips? Maybe it's not in your freezer, but maybe it's at the coffee shop down the street that has this amazing power bowl or whatever that you can grab for lunch. Or maybe just like Mama's set up a meal train. Have you ever heard of that? The meal train?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I have.
Yeah. When you get people to like deliver food to you or bring food to you when you're in the postpartum phase, you could do the same thing when you're getting ready for your launch. You could get your support team in place and be like, hey, I'm really going to need you to step up, partner, and, make dinner 3 times this week, or I'm going to need you to get the groceries and deliver them here. You could pay for a delivery service, that kind of stuff. So you can get yourself set up that way. And you can also put the blueprints in place and do the thinking ahead of time for what does make you feel your best. So that is something I might have talked about in our food freedom episode, or maybe in the plant-based episode, which is setting up your meal blueprint so that you don't have to use up too much brain power to make decisions around nutrition. So it could be something like, for breakfast, I have a couple of different options. There's one that's going to be a really quick grab and go one, say like a smoothie. And the other one is one that I can do when I have a little bit more time on my hand, and it's going to be oatmeal. On my hands, and it's going to be oatmeal. So that could be your breakfast template, your blueprint. And then you're going to give yourself a couple of options for lunch. It's going to be a soup or salad, right? Depending on what I need, how I feel. Do I need, something that's lighter? Do I need something that's more comforting? I'm going to get either or. And same for snacks and for dinner, right? So once you have that blueprint in place, it does take a little bit of time to set it up, but you can even just like write it out, post it on your fridge, and you don't have to think about food anymore. Right? The decisions are so easy. So those are all things that you can do to prepare for that next big season of your life, whether it's a baby or launch.
It's so interesting because, especially for coaches and entrepreneurs who are preparing for launches that take so much time and energy, it's like, yeah, are you thinking about yourself? Are you thinking about how you're going to sustain yourself? And I know that I've been in a bind many times, just like starving for lunch and like didn't have anything prepared. And I've definitely come a long way with like my connection with food and like allowing myself to nourish myself. And it's definitely true where it's like, why can't we treat it like we would treat, being a postpartum mom, and like preparing for these things?
Yeah.
Preparing for that sustainable nourishment.
Yeah. Because what I like about the postpartum period is that the baby doesn't eat food, right? So you don't actually have to think about what you're going to feed that child. It's either going to be formula or breast milk. So you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about, how could I be of most value to my world, to the people around me? And that starts with nourishing myself. And that's the way we should be thinking all the time. But of course we don't. We have to be reminded.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that I've talked to you about this, but like I always struggled with just feeling connected to food in general. Like I was always the type of person that just kind of eats because I have to eat. I've never been like a foodie or obsessed with food, and I've never had an eating disorder either. So it's just like this weird place of, just eating what I like,
right,
when I like it. But what actually really changed my mind around that was, I don't know if you're familiar with the medical medium.
Yeah.
He has a book called Life Changing Foods. And I was reading about the foods and like the spiritual meaning of the foods and the benefits of the food, and like how food really is medicine. And for me, I had to like learn more about food and what each little vegetable can do for the body and how it interacts with the body, to appreciate it on a deeper level, to know that like, this is medicine that I'm putting in my body. It changed it for me.
I love that, because you have found something within food that resonates with you, right? And it wasn't necessarily, like being a foodie or having those amazing dishes or whatever that didn't do it for you. It wasn't, for some people, it's like my husband, for example, like it's about the animals, like he doesn't want to hurt the animals. So within that realm of food, he's found a way to eat that is like super ethical for him, or he doesn't want to hurt the planet or whatever. And for you, it might be that spiritual component, right? So there's something in it for everyone. Really, for some, it might be about presence and feeling grounded and that sort of very sensory, sensual experience, or about being mindful, which is something that I really need to work on because I still don't do that. So for me, it's all about the taste and the connection to other people around food and cooking and all that stuff, but it might not be yours, right? So there's something in it for everyone.
Wow, that's so true. That is so true. So people that are struggling maybe right now, especially around the holidays
Mhm.
for like getting their nutrition where they want it to be, like getting their habits where they want them to be, like how can they turn that into like creating, their ideal state through food in a
Yeah,
healthy way?
yeah, I have a couple of thoughts around that. So one of them being, when we say the holiday season, it's really a few holidays, right? It's usually a handful of days where our routine and our nutrition and the people we're around might actually be different than the usual. So I would say if that's your case, and maybe for some people it isn't, maybe it is one long extended holiday season, but for most of us, it's just one day here and there. If that's your case, I would say don't sweat it. Just have that good foundation of nutrition um, every day, except for those holidays. If you just love to indulge in your mom's, turkey and stuffing and all that stuff, then do it. It's just one day. And make sure that you don't beat yourself up over that the next day. And you just go straight back to your good foundation and you're good. Now, if you're looking to elevate that experience because in the past, maybe you haven't felt so great, maybe every time that you get together with your family, you leave feeling really bogged down and heavy and you beat yourself up and you're like, I wasn't even present and really enjoying the moment because I was just too busy stuffing my face and not feeling great, right? So if that's something that you struggle with, then yeah, you want to put intention into it. And it always starts with, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel when I go spend New Year's Eve with my friends? I want to feel super connected. I want to feel like I'm having fun. I want to feel intentional and excited and celebratory about the year ahead. So once you decide how you want to feel, then you can find the foods to support that. And you might say, well, but they always serve that thing that doesn't support my goals. Say your ideal New Year's Eve is like this beautiful, I don't know, this beautiful crab salad or lobster salad and a glass of champagne, and that would be your ideal. And you're like, yeah, but that's not at all how my friends celebrate it. Well, why wouldn't you be able to bring in that dish that you really want and have enough for everybody to share? And maybe you can have a bite of a couple of things that you think are worth it to you, right? And that's the other question I always tell my clients to ask themselves, whether it's for special occasions or whether it's because somebody dropped a box of donuts off at the office on a Monday morning. Is this worth it to me? Is this so delicious and amazing and elevating to me that it's worth, maybe I don't know, maybe you don't feel well if you eat too much sugar or too much gluten or something. Is that worth it to me? Because maybe it is, right? But ask yourself the question. So those are the thoughts I have around that.
That's so good. There's so many. I was like, oh my God, wait.
I get so
Yes,
fired up. I can't help
I
it.
know. It's so good. I think that what was the first? There's so much there. So the first thing that you were saying of like, figuring out how you want to feel when
Mm,
you're at these, and the first thing you said is like the holidays are not just, it's not like a few months, it's like a couple days that you're
yeah,
around people with families at holiday parties. And I think that's such a great point. What a beautiful reframe of like, I think people clump like these couple months together, like
yeah,
from Thanksgiving till New Year's, it's like all clumped together. But really, it's just a few days of events that you're outside of your normal, routine. And so, like, yeah, decide how you want to feel. I know for me, something I get caught up in is like, I will overeat and I will overdrink at events like that. And so, identifying how I want to feel for that night, but then also taking it a step further, like how do I want to feel when I leave their
yeah,
house or that party? And then how do I want to feel the next day?
yeah.
So that's definitely something that I'm going to take with me. And like, even now, I mean, I've cut out alcohol. Obviously, I'm going through fertility stuff, but like, I have no desire to drink alcohol.
Huh.
And it's great. And I'm honoring that. So like whatever you have no desire to eat or drink wherever you go, honor that. And I think that there's also a level of like peer pressure. I don't know. Does that
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I was thinking about this because I actually had this whole experiment and experience around alcohol that started because I was going through fertility treatments and it wasn't going well, and I was so frustrated. So that would have been like 7, 8 years ago. I was so devastated and frustrated every month when I realized that cycle hadn't panned out that I would drink at the problem. And I'd never really
right.
considered that I would have an issue with drinking until this started happening. And I remember actually going to events. So it was like, hanging out with friends and they were all new moms. And I was like, fine, you're pregnant. I'm drinking for you. You got a baby. Ha, I'll drink twice. And then going home and feeling awful. I mean, like, whoa, okay. And so this was actually what prompted me to go on this journey where I didn't drink at all, 100%, alcohol free for over 2 years, and I had the most massivest growth of my entire life at that point.
Wow.
But that's a tangent. But it made me think of that because we're all different, right? And you're aware and intentional enough to be like, hey, I'm in tune with my body. This is not what makes me feel best in this season. But it comes back to that. Like, it's usually when we go through the hard times in life that we don't take great care of ourselves unless we have this great awareness and this great, when we're really in tune with what's going on with our body, which you
Mm,
are. But most
yeah.
people aren't. And it's great to remind ourselves that we can be intentional even in those hard times, and especially in those hard or more demanding times, that we need to put our nutrition and our just nourishing ourselves first.
So good. So
Yeah.
good. So what would you say is like the best way to start nourishing yourself and step into the vibration of food and the state that you want to be in, right now? Like if you're listening to this and you're like feeling far away from this conversation, what would you tell that person?
Okay, well, that's when you want to dive inwards as opposed to outwards, right? Because if you're going to start Googling what's going to raise my vibe, or which one is the right diet for me, or whatever, you're in the external, right? What would Marie eat right now? You're in the external. Go inwards and say, hey, first of all, am I hungry? No? Okay, let's not eat. Let's make a cup of tea or whatever. Second of all, what does my body actually really want or need right now? So maybe you're hungry and you're craving something. Maybe you're craving cheese and it doesn't make you feel best, right? So that's when you start thinking, okay, well, what does cheese give me that I'm actually craving? Maybe it's that creaminess and that saltiness, and it's that feeling, that fat that makes me feel nourished. Maybe that's where you're going to go for an avocado. And you put, sea salt and lemon juice on it, something like that, and see if that helps and shifts your vibe in the way that you desire, because your cravings are going to point you in the right direction. We're just too quick to listen to them, but our cravings are actually telling us something that is giving us valuable information, right? If it's the cheese we're craving, it's actually telling us something about what our body actually needs. So those are questions to ask yourself. So I would say next time you have to just see it one choice at a time, right? Next time you have to make a decision around food. If you want a tangible, action step at that point, I would say the first step is to pick something that is not overly processed, because this is going to sound very unscientific, and it is, although I'm sure there's a lot of evidence to back it up. But what I know to be true is that a calorie is not a calorie, and our body does not respond to food that it doesn't recognize as such, that it doesn't recognize as food, the same way that it actually responds to quote unquote real food. And I'm not saying that 100% of your diet has to be unprocessed, and you don't have to become like this granola hippie hippie granola making person overnight. But what I'm saying is, if you're trying to experiment and seeing what shifts your vibe and your state and what makes you feel best, and for sure, I would say pick something that is unprocessed, whether it's, a piece of fruit or some veggies, even if they're like, say, roasted veggies. Maybe you need something comforting and nourishing, but or maybe it is a handful of nuts or something like that, and see how your body responds to that, as opposed to 100 calories of almonds aren't going to be making you feel the same as a protein bar that's 100 calories, because that super processed product, your body is not going to recognize it as real fuel. And so, you might get hungry a couple of hours later in a way that you wouldn't have had you eaten something that's unprocessed. And you're definitely going to feel the difference in your vibration if you're paying attention. So that's step one, I would say, if you're trying to find something to eat for your next choice that you have to make, is to pick something that your body's going to recognize as fuel.
That is so good. And I will say, from my experience, I'm starting to notice more after I eat something, how I feel, how the food is making me feel emotionally and physically. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, the other day I had a bagel. I love bagels and I let myself have it. And a bagel is processed. If you didn't know, a bagel is processed food. Would you agree?
Oh gosh, I'm laughing because if there is, like, everybody's got this like one thing that they say, like, oh, if this food is in the house, like, I just can't say no to it. I really don't quite understand that concept, except when it's bagels. Like, if I have bagels in the house, like, I cannot say no, and they make me feel like crap. I get so hungry right after, but I don't know. I'm like a bagel, like, I don't know. Upset.
I love bagels so much. I get so tired after I eat a bagel. So tired, exhausted. Like, I need a nap for the day. Yeah. But I noticed that, like, okay, I feel tired. I feel like I'm dragging. That makes my vibe a little bit lower. Mm-hmm. And the days where I wake up and I have fresh fruit, or I have a juice, or I have something that's like really light and real food, I feel totally different, like completely different. So it's just, it does take some time, and like, take it from me, guys, because I didn't have this relationship with food before. So like, it takes some time to be aware enough to notice how you feel and what emotionally is coming up for you and physically is coming up for you. But I promise it's worth it. Like, this morning I didn't want to have something processed, like a bar or something, and I just ate a whole avocado. So that was my avocado and berries. So it's alive, right? It's a live food. Your body likes alive food.
Yeah. And
it feels good eating it.
Yeah, every food has its own sort of vibration around it and in it, and real food will definitely have a higher vibration than a processed food. Yes. And, again, it's not about being perfect. Like, I eat my share of bagels, unfortunately, but where I notice it is not so much my energy levels as it is my hunger levels. Like, I just get so hungry just like an hour or two after. Like, it's crazy. I'm better off eating nothing if satiation is satiety is what I'm looking for. Wow. But that's always the first thing we do when I work with clients, is to what I call put your detective hat on. It's to kind of have a look at what it is that you're eating and kind of removing the judgment from it. But it's not just about, writing down the foods that you eat, but also what you notice in observation, the observations that you can make around those foods. So say I ate a bagel. Okay, but you don't just stop at that. You write down, felt amazing, really satiated me, or whatever. It might not be the case, but maybe it is, right? Or maybe it was like, felt like crap. But it's not about beating yourself up. It's about really noticing, right? Ate cheese, had a pimple the next day. Okay, I wonder if the two are connected. Maybe they're not. Let's do this for a few more days. So yeah, it's always step one in really changing your nutrition. It's looking at what are we doing right now? What what is the status quo? What is the current picture? Let's remove the judgment from this, but we really need to know what we're starting with, because most of the time we're so mindless around food. We're just not paying attention to the trends and the patterns that can emerge if you actually do pay attention, like the relationship between, and even just like your mood, right? Maybe it's not a physical symptom like bloating or pimples, or maybe it's like, every time I have coffee, I am like super anxious in the afternoon. Is that really it? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Yeah.
I think tracking all of that is so key in just understanding what's coming up for you, because your emotions are so connected to it too. So it's like if you're feeling emotionally down for days and you're not paying attention to what you're putting in your body, there's a huge correlation there.
Totally. And you don't know which one is the chicken or the egg, right? Maybe
Right.
you're eating a garbage because you're feeling down, in which case you really need to record that. You're like, felt angry at my partner, ate chocolate. Like, okay, why did you make that choice? Because you were angry. But maybe it is the other way around, and the chocolate is what making your mood, sour, right? So it's only you're the detective and you know best.
And that's why I love what you do, because it's not just about changing your diet or changing the way you eat or what you eat. It's about looking at the holistic picture. It's like being able to get a bird's eye view of you as a whole human and all of you, not just what you're eating.
Yeah. And that's totally where the ripple effect comes in, right? For me, it started with food, which is why I'm so passionate about nutrition and food. But for some people, it might be, say they got out of debt. Maybe they were like $200,000 in debt, and through the process of paying off that debt, they learned so much about themselves and their life and their mindset, that they were able to apply that to other areas like their relationship or their nutrition. For me, it started with food, and I've realized that the process that I went through of questioning all the beliefs that I had around food and all the limiting beliefs that I had within myself, standing in the way of nourishing myself well. Once I learned those skills, I was like, wait a minute, I can do this with parenting. I can do this with money. I can do this with the coaching industry. I can actually question everything and apply those skills that I learned with food.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Love that so much. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that you want to share about this subject that is like on your heart right now?
Well, we we started kind of chatting about that before recording, because you were like, hey, how are you doing? How are the boys? And I have two little boys. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And actually, our relationship and the way that I view parenting is entirely different than I did a few months back. And you're like, oh yeah, that's weird. Like how? And I'm like, yeah, I was wishing away my son's like first 5 years of life, really, because I was constantly pushing and forcing and trying to make my business be something that it wasn't. And I was waiting for my child to go to school. And so I grew up on a boat. I went to many different schools growing up. I was very lonely. And if there was one belief that I had around schooling and parenting, it was, I will never homeschool my kids. That's one thing that I can't do, because to me it meant the kid is lonely. And I wasn't exactly homeschooled, but I pictured kids being homeschooled as a very just lonely and disconnected from society and all that stuff, right? And then as my kids kindergarten start of the kindergarten year was looming closer, I started kind of freaking out and thinking, whoa, I'm so attached to this idea that he's going to go to school, what if he can't for some reason, all the stuff that's going on in the world, like what if the school shuts down, or what if, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And that forced me to look at the alternative, which was homeschooling. Like, okay, well, if I really had to homeschool, which I really, really don't want to do, what would that look like? And so I started reading books and I started talking to people and I started, kind of painting this picture of homeschooling that was way different from the one that was actually in my mind. And I started finding all those social groups, etc. So now I'm homeschooling the kids and I'm having a blast. And so nothing's changed from before the summer where I was home with the kids and working, but everything's changed because I'm home with the kids and I have this new layer of purpose because I'm sort of guiding him and his little brother in their education. And I kind of took my business off of the table for a minute, being like, well, whatever, my priority is the kids in this season of life. And then I realized just how much time I had to actually work while they were around. And I asked myself the question, well, how could I work with my kids around? It wasn't like, well, I couldn't, or I can't, or this isn't working, or I need them to be in school. It was like, but how could I do that? Right. And so I figured I found a way. And I'm relating this is so a mirror for what I went through with food many, many years ago, where I had all these beliefs about, I need to be really thin. I need to weigh this much. All that matters is the amount of calories that I put on my plate. And then there was this awakening that was like, wait a minute, is this really true? Let me look at the alternative. Let me paint the picture of what it could look like if that wasn't the case. Which obviously I ended up leaning into so much that it ended up being my career, just the same way that, I ended up leaning into homeschooling so much that it ended up being this thing that makes me feel so purposeful and really repaired my relationship with momming and parenting and my kids. And what I would say to you is that it doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to make a changes. You can apply that same kind of thinking about, I see it as like there's 4 phases to unprocessing your belief. The first phase is like, I think this is true. I'm never homeschooling. I am never going plant-based. I am only eating this number of calories or whatever. That's your belief. Phase 2 is when you have that seed of change that's planted and you start to question it. And you're like, is this true? How could it look like if it wasn't the case? But then there's the third phase, which I haven't really talked about, but the third phase is like you're resisting that change. You're like, holy cow, no, I couldn't possibly. The thing is, once that seed of change has been planted, you can't unplant it. Like you can't unknow what you found out in phase 2, right? So you might have a lot of resistance. You might have a lot of self-sabotage. So if this is around food and nutrition, that's where you're like, oh gosh, maybe I just realized that gluten is horrible for me, but I'm resisting this so hard and I'm binging on all the bagels. That's phase 3. But the thing is, there is eventually that phase 4, which is freedom, which is when you're embracing that change and you're leaning into it and you're like, well, actually, I'm doing the thing and I'm getting rid of the gluten in the bagels. And again, guys, this is just an example. Like gluten is not the devil.
Yeah.
So some people,
Yeah.
right? So I'm making the change. And once you start leaning into that thing that was so uncomfortable for you to even picture at first, you find purpose, you find freedom, you find this whole new way of life, this whole new level to your life, until you apply this process to something else. Yeah.
You find yourself, right?
Yeah. You're uncovering your truth with every phase of that process. You're shedding layers, right? To see what's really true for you.
That's amazing. It's so beautiful. I love that process.
Yeah. It's the unprocessing process.
The unprocessing process, and just how your perspective on motherhood has changed and parenting and momming, and like, it's so inspiring because it just shows you that wherever you might feel stuck, you can unprocess that process. You can change your perspective, and that could change your whole relationship with the people in your life, with your food, with literally every single area of your life. It's so incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So good. Marie's amazing, everyone. Like, work with her somehow, some way. I don't even know if you're taking clients right now, but work with her somehow.
I am. And that's another thing, right? Another sort of unprocessing thing, because this whole time that I was frustrated about my kid not being in full-time school or daycare, and how can I, I only saw coaching as a one-way thing. I was like, the only way I can do this is by doing, one-on-one sessions. And I am really struggling to do it with the kids because I don't have enough childcare. And once I sort of took that off the table and then, realized how life was amazing with the kids around, how much space I actually had, I was like, wait a minute, what if there was a different way? What if I could actually have this constant connection model where I'm chatting on Voxer all the time, and I'm chatting on email all the time, and I'm sending worksheets to my client, and they can reach out anytime that they're in a pickle? Because that's also something with nutrition, is you'll find that, you might be feeling amazing and flying high and high vibe during your session, and then you go home or you go to the restaurant and you go through the holidays and stuff, and you're like, it's Christmas and I'm really feeling like crap, and you're waiting till your next session basically to be able to discuss this. So this model actually changes that too, where we're constantly chatting. And I'm like, I can do that anywhere, anytime. I can do this with my kids running around. I can reply to a message. I can give you some tips. I can send you a worksheet. So anyway, I am taking clients, and that's another example of how I've totally unprocessed my belief that I had around how I'm supposed to coach.
Yeah. Whoa. Blown away by you. This is amazing. And if you feel like this is calling to you, like this is calling to you for a reason, because you can literally change your life in any way that you want. So Marie's your girl for sure. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for always just bringing it to the show and to our community. It's amazing. Where can everyone find you, connect with you, all the things?
Yeah. My website is bloomwithmarie.com. It's all in one word. And my Instagram is @bloomwithmarie, and all in one word as well. And yeah, just reach out, let's chat, let's see if we can work together, or if I can send you some tips. I have a freebie right now that is a bunch of high vibe meal options that you can grab off of my link tree and Instagram of my bio. So that might be helpful to you. I have a couple of ebooks. My latest one is a plant-based recipe ebook with all of my favorite plant-based recipes. That's also a super affordable price point. And then after that we can work one-on-one together.
Awesome. Go follow her, connect with her. If you have questions, you can always reach out. Thank you so much. It was so awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me. Always love it.
All right, everyone, have an amazing day, and we will see you next time. Bye. Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram @manifestwithash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.